All right, sounds good.
Well, welcome back, YouTube pipe smokers, to the Spurgeon Piper. This is Wilson with you. So this morning, I have the special privilege to have on in a conversation Mr. Alan Harrelson. Right, Alan? It's Harrelson?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just want to make sure I
sir,
got that right.
that's right.
Now, Al and I, we've begun to chat more and get to know each other a bit more over on the Instagram side of social media, but we did want to get together and have a chat conversation on pipe smoking in the 21st century, mostly focusing on that and wherever that leads us afterwards. But Alan, before we really get started, tell people a little bit more about yourself, just some background of who you are, what you do, things like that.
Good. Well, we started a pipe and pipe tobacco store, an e-commerce store, on August 1st. And we've been doing this for about 2 months. I've been smoking a pipe much longer than that, but I decided that I wanted to kind of have a little bit more fun with the hobby and take it to the next level. We live here in South Carolina, and I also teach history at a university. And so I was trained to teach history, but the pipe is a wonderful addition to our lifestyle here. We live on a farm here in South Carolina. And so we've got a lot of different things going on. I have a lovely wife and 2 precious children, both under 3 years of age. So it's a blessing to be able to come out to the study and smoke a pipe and talk about something other than what are the children going to eat in the next meal? Do we need to go get more diapers today? So this is fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely is. I don't know about you, but I don't have well, I guess supposedly I suppose I do now, but I don't have like a huge group of like at a pipe store where I can go periodically and just sit down with guys and smoke. There's some guys I can smoke with about 30 minutes away, but I don't get with them that often. Do you have anything like that close by?
We do not, and that's part of what we want to change.
Yeah, sure.
Old Carolina Pipe Cottage is the name of our online store, but the goal has never been to be simply an e-commerce site.
Right.
We want to use this as a vehicle to get us into a brick and mortar store next year, the second half of next year.
Certainly.
Because we need more of those. I'm convinced that a lot of people miss old-fashioned retail practices. And so we're trying to fill that gap here in our local community. So
absolutely. That's great. That's wonderful. That is much needed. I want to get into that here before too long. Now, before we get into the full topic, what are you smoking? What are you smoking out of?
This is a pipe that I picked up at the Country Squire down in Jackson, Mississippi. I don't know if you can see that on the camera too good or not. It's a Series 3 Savinelli. They're getting hard to come by. I keep this pipe out in the study. This is one of my workhorse pipes. This study is not climate controlled, so pipes that are more prestigious do not belong out here.
Sure.
But this pipe works extremely well, and actually I have apricots and cream in it. I've been smoking this every day since I started the store. It's a wonderful aromatic that has a nice bellowing smoke, and actually one of my Instagram friends hooked me on this. I was hesitant to try it, but apricots and cream is a lovely aromatic if you enjoy aromatics. So that's what's in the pipe. How about yourself, sir?
Absolutely. So as we talked about beforehand, I am smoking. If folks have traveled or been around watching the channel, they know one of my favorites is Chelsea Morning. I just popped open this 8-ounce tin yesterday, I guess it was, and I didn't have enough open mason jars to hold all of it, so I'm just trying to smoke it up before it dries out. I have a little bit left, and I'm smoking it out of, I just lost the top there. I'm smoking out of my Savinelli 320 KS 2021 St. Nicholas pipe. I don't always pick up, the Christmas pipes or, those type of releases, St. Patrick's with Peterson or Halloween pipes, but the color pattern caught my eye, and so I thought, I'll pick one up this year, and I've enjoyed it so far. I do like the shape of the 320 KS. It's the only one
Yeah,
I
that's a
have.
beautiful pipe.
It
Uh,
is. It is.
yes, it's that the finish and the shape is outstanding. I ordered several of those in a few shapes for the store, and we sold out in a matter of 2 weeks.
Is that right? There you
And
go.
I can't get any more from the distributor because Savinelli is still producing the next round.
Is that right?
But they are,
Wow.
yes, it is a very popular pipe this year. I'm not going to be selling the Peterson Christmas pipes. I'm not really in favor of what they've done with those pipes this year. It's not Christmassy enough, in short.
No, it's not. And I don't think the look is so awful, but as you said, what's Christmassy about them? Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you.
So there's a lot of other people who will be selling those.
Mhm.
But Peterson is an excellent manufacturer. I think the quality has increased since Laudisi Enterprises bought them out a
Yes,
couple of years ago.
indeed.
But
Indeed.
Savinelli we're selling those like hotcakes, and I'm glad of it. It's a very popular pipe. The 320 is an excellent shape.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. Now, I really would love to, and hopefully maybe in the future we can do this, get more into your expectations for your store, why you opened it even further. I know you gave some information on why you guys wanted to open it, but
Yeah.
we'll save that for maybe another get together, which I hope we can do.
Yes.
Starting out, just looking at where we are as far as in society with pipe smoking and what's the future, maybe it's helpful to look back just a bit, to understand, as you are an historian or a professor of history, maybe it's helpful to look back a bit in the history of pipe smoking, especially more recent history. Now, for me, and I am not that, I haven't dove into pipe history so much, but it seems maybe around the beginning of the 21st century, so the early 2000s, it did come back into a bit more popularity. Again, maybe I'm just so young that it was popular before then, but I want to say, with the Lord of the Rings movies coming out, that it did really increase its popularity. I don't know what other aspects or influences may have caused that. And feel free to chime in here. But did it jump up in the 21st century, the early 2000s, or did it begin a little before that?
Well, I cannot speak from personal experience going back that far.
Right.
But I do have an understanding of perhaps what was going on in the country. And this is probably going to be more relegated to American society. I can't speak with any degree of authority to European society because I know pipe smoking has not waned in certain European countries as much as it has here. I was reading a book, and I mentioned this in I think a live stream not too long ago, but I was reading Richard Carlton Hacker's pipe book, which he published in 1984. And he explained in there that this is almost 40 years ago now. Hard to believe, but it is. And he said in 1984, there were 30 million pipe smokers in this country alone. And now the numbers have dwindled to about 3 million.
Wow.
Now, if those numbers hold, and I have no reason to believe that they don't, there has been, if we look at that larger time frame, go back to 1980, pipe smoking has continued to decline. Now, I think there is a more recent trend upwards. It seems to be somewhat of a fashion statement for some people.
Yes.
Because when you put a pipe in your mouth, you are asking to stand out.
Indeed.
You're asking to be the person who stands out in the crowd, whether you want that or not. But I think it's a nostalgic item, particularly for a lot of younger people. I've taught college for 10 years now, and it seems that the college age is where a lot of growth seems to be happening. When people come of age and they're legally able to buy tobacco, usually they're going to buy it in some form. And I hope that it's going to be pipe tobacco. And I have seen a lot of that. So I think that after the year 2000, I vaguely remember 9/11. I remember where I was, like a lot of people. And that was a period of transition for American culture. It was a period of transition where life seemed to be catapulted into a fast-paced atmosphere in a much more real way than had ever been in the 80s and the 90s. And after 2001, it seems like a lot of people were wanting to return to old-fashioned ways of living, old-fashioned. There was even a back to the land movement after that I vaguely remember, where a lot of people wanted to get into small farming, and we had lots of books and magazines came out about that particular topic. But I think they go hand in hand.
I think so.
So I think, number one, what can explain the rise in popularity of pipe smoking over the past 20 years is this need to be connected to something bigger than ourselves, something that's rooted in history. And we just posted an article yesterday on our site that explains why the pipe is a representation of a bygone era. And that can be connected to the Tolkien films. I have never been able to put my finger on exactly what it is about the Tolkien films that garner the attention of people. I think there's a spiritual element to that. That's what I find attractive about it.
Yes.
But the books are far better.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Sure.
But
absolutely.
people don't read much anymore. They're much quicker to watch a film. And so I do know that several YouTube presenters readily admit that that's why they got into pipe smoking, is because of Tolkien.
Yes.
And so that's good. But Tolkien it's popular culture, but it's more than popular culture at the same time. He's asking people to think on a much deeper level about spiritual matters. And his story is almost an allegory. I mean, he's talking about one thing, but he wants you to see something much larger. Indeed. And that way of thinking, I believe, is attractive to people who are attracted to pipe smoking. They go hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've shared that a large part of me getting into pipe smoking was the Tolkien films and the books. I before that I did read the books, got into the films, and then went back into the books, and they were influential. And then my professors were pipe smokers, and that just, they melded together. But you made a point that I just wasn't thinking of, but really fits well together, of the rise that coincides with the back to the land movement, small farming. I came out of a farming family, 4th generation, and then after going off after college and after trying some other avenues, I went back to farming, my own business. And similar reasons was the simplicity we see in the books and the movies of Lord of the Rings, which is attractive, a simplistic life. And as you mentioned, after 9/11 especially, and that is a good marker I didn't think of, but that really is a key point. Things grew more fast-paced. Technology just became much more integrated with our lives, whether we liked it or not. And the small-scale farming, just living purely on the land, whether it's for hobby or for making a living, and then with pipe smoking, they have that in common, of more of a simple life. And so I think you did get on something there. They did seem to rise somewhat together.
Well, there was a writer back in the 1950s, and one of my favorite writers, and he often spoke of what's called the permanent things in a world that's transient and temporary, and a lot of the way that we schedule our daily lives and the things that we become interested in now are quite temporary. The pipe seems to be a reflection of a worldview that craves more permanent things. You think about the pipe. It's not something that you throw away. It's not like a cigarette or even a cigar. I don't smoke cigars very often. I've never tried a cigarette my whole life. I was attracted to the pipe because of people who I admired in literature, writers that I admired. Actually, some that I knew personally, they were pipe smokers. And it was more than simply a cool thing that I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to know, I wanted to understand it. I wanted to understand why it was that people were attracted to a piece of wood with a piece of tobacco in the inside of it. We put a flame to it. Why does this matter? And it adds a lovely, and I would even say a precious element to a life well lived. It helps us to live better, I think. And I might be sounding a bit lofty with this, but I really do think that pipe smokers get it. Pipe smokers have a more full understanding of what a full life is supposed to look like. So that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, right. Sure. And I'm sure the cigar smoker would maybe say the same thing about their
Yes.
hobby, their enjoyment.
Yes.
But I would agree. When it comes to pipe smoking, I just found it so intertwined well with for instance, sermon preparation or just simply reading a book. 90% of the time when I'm smoking my pipe, I'm reading and maybe getting into more contemplation, where I have tried to smoke a cigar and read, and I just don't. And it, again, this is personal. I know plenty of guys who smoke a cigar or read, but personally, I just it doesn't meld well for me. I'm not sure why, but there are stereotypes behind the type of smoking that's done. We think of cigarette smoking and we think of jitteriness and I guess quick pace maybe. And of course, the addiction and things like that. But even cigars, which I smoke cigars with friends occasionally when I am hanging out, but there's usually a stereotype of not the contemplative mind. It seems more social to me, and in my experience, and just what I've seen. Whereas pipe smoking is a bit more ethereal and contemplative, and I don't want to say academic because it sounds maybe snobbish to say that, because we have the grandpas and uncles and great grandpas who maybe never even finished high school who smoked a pipe, right? But it just does settle into more of a type of personality as well, I suppose. I don't.
It's
Go ahead.
It's interesting to think about there are similarities between cigar smokers and pipe smokers, and they're not mutually exclusive. Many pipe smokers enjoy cigars and other way around.
Yes.
It's just whatever you're in the mood for, I think. There are certain days where I'm in the mood to try something different, and I'll pick up a cigar and I'll enjoy that. But the wife really doesn't appreciate the smell of a cigar as much as she does a fine pipe tobacco.
Yes.
So I have to be relegated to the study when I do that. But
indeed.
But yes, sir, I've thought a lot about why pipe smoking is popular with some people and why it's really not on the radar of many other people. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that some people just don't have the time. A lot of people have to spend a lot of time working and taking care of family, and I understand that.
Yes,
it's a joy, it's a blessing for me to be able to sit down and enjoy a pipe. It's never a moment that I take for granted, and that gets into some other things that I hope we'll be able to talk about in a minute. Is why is pipe smoking considered to be a blessing? Why is that term something that we can use in relation to this? But anyway, I hope we answered that question well enough for your. It has. There has been a rise in the past 20 years. I first started smoking a pipe about 10 years ago. I left it for a while because I didn't have anybody to teach me how to do it.
Sure.
I wasn't sure exactly what I was doing, and I tried for about 3 months, and I failed miserably. And I gave it up for a while. And then when I noticed the YTPC, I started following people like Mutton Chop Piper, and he is the man responsible for teaching me how to smoke a pipe properly.
Indeed, same here. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
He deserves a lot of credit. A lot of wonderful people in the YTPC deserve credit for helping people who are just starting out learn how to do this right. And I think you yourself have created some excellent videos on beginning pipe smoking and how to get started with that. I think it's a necessary thing for YTPC folks to be doing, because this is where people go to learn how to smoke a pipe.
Absolutely. And Mutton Chop for me was the same way. He was the inspiration behind my channel even. and he captures the simplicity, I suppose, as well, very
Yes,
well. He does carry that
he does.
uncle, I suppose,
Hmm.
character maybe, or the grandpa or what have you. That's one thing that
Yes.
I think, you look at his, especially his older, his beginning, his videos. He's not using, the state of the art, or high quality camera setup, or lighting, or any type of extra animation or anything like that.
Hmm.
But he exploded, and I think
Yeah.
why is his personality, and there's the
Yes.
simplicity, and he kind of fits the I guess the Southern charm, being in Kentucky,
Hmm.
and I think that's why so many people gravitated to him, and still
Yeah.
do. So
Hmm.
uh, even in that area, with in the YTPC and what he's done, you can see what people are drawn to when it comes to pipe smoking.
Yes, I think he is attractive for many reasons. He was attractive to me because he was honest and open about
Very,
what
yes,
he thought needed to be done with the pipe, and the kind of behavior that we should present when we pick up a pipe.
indeed.
Some of my favorite videos from him, and these are also the types of videos that I seek out with other presenters, is videos that speak about the type of character that we're expected to bring to the table when we pick up a pipe, because there is a stereotype, and some of his best videos, in my opinion, were the ones that he used to speak about the gentlemanly art of pipe smoking. Oh, just fantastic, just
Yes,
fantastic.
agreed, absolutely. Now, to transition now from looking backward to forward, we get into the discussion of what is the future with pipe smoking, and we can take a different avenues, because there's multiple variables we have to take into consideration, not just interest, but of course how legislation comes into play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh, let's tackle that one real quick, because that may be
Mm-hmm.
faster to tackle. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts going forward with governmental intervention? Do you think eventually, set aside interest, do you think that might be one of the major, I guess, downfalls of pipe smoking? Do you see that getting worse for at least those of us in the United States?
Well, it's already worse for people around the world. We've been
Yes.
blessed to have fairly low taxes on tobacco thus far,
Yes.
relative to other countries. I know that I've touched on some of this in my own social media, and I'm trying to get an understanding of what other people are thinking about this. And there is some genuine concern on behalf of some serious pipe smokers, people who you and I would both know.
Sure.
Um, I know that in Italy, they have to pay an astronomical amount of taxes. Australia, it just, you name it. So many other countries. So
Yeah.
in relation to those other countries, we don't have it bad yet. I despise unnecessary government intervention, and this is an unnecessary attack upon pipe smoking in general.
Indeed.
If it passes, and I'm not sure that it will, because midterms are coming up next year, and a lot of people don't want this on their plate. But if it happens, I would be interested to know how pipe smokers are going to respond. Will you stop smoking entirely? Are you going to stock up? If the zombie tobacco apocalypse occurs, what are you going to do? I know that some people will simply say that regardless as to what you charge for it, you're not taking my pipe tobacco away. But there are
Yeah.
going to be people who will have to put it away, because everything is experiencing inflation now, and there's no
Right.
argument about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as the price of food and more essential items goes up, there are going to be people that will not buy pipe tobacco because it's not going to be as much of a priority. I've already started to see people buying more and more tobacco, stocking up just in case this legislation passes. It's confusing and it's disappointing, but I don't worry about it. I take it one day at a time.
That's right. I mean, that's exactly right. I'm seeing things too pessimistically, but I don't feel we have a great influence on it, quite frankly.
No, we don't.
Um,
We don't.
and if that's the case, then it doesn't really help worrying about it.
Mhm.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, personally, I haven't begun, nor I don't really plan to try. I'm not going to try to stock up on extra just in case. Maybe that comes to a point. I'm not saying I would never do that, but it's something I plan to do now. I usually just buy as normal extra anyway because I like to sell it and put
Mhm.
blends aside for not only for the rainy day, but also just for the addition of the aging and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, that's always I guess that's the biggest unknown is how government will come into play.
Well,
We
if the legislation passes, it can. There's also a chance in the future that it can be brought back down. But
sure,
usually when taxes go up, it's a while
yeah,
before it comes down, if it does. I mean,
that's
we're
right.
living in a country where income tax didn't exist until after 1900. So
Yes,
this is that I don't want to get into a political discussion, but there is a long history of Americans being fed up with too many taxes. That is a historical fact.
yes,
So it'd be interesting to see how people will respond to it. But again, I'm not convinced that it will pass. If it does, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
exactly. And this is where this was mentioned in another video when there was another bill several months ago that was floating around. This is where, especially us and our cigar smoking friends, or those who are primarily cigar smoking friends, we have a very important alliance as we
Yes.
depend a lot on them, as they
Mhm.
are far more influential than we pipe smokers are. And
Mhm.
we that's something that for us to bear in mind in that regard.
Yeah, we have
So
to pull together. There has to be some kind of coalition to affect any change at all. And I know there are people who are lobbying against this. Very good, very
yes,
knowledgeable, and influential people. But I don't know. I do know that if this passes, the tax on 1 pound of pipe tobacco is going to go up by $50. And if you divide that up into 2-ounce tins, eventually it's going to hit us, the retailers. And I'll continue to buy tobacco and sell tobacco as long as people will continue to buy it. But the pipe store is not our only source of income, thank God. And I think that would be kind of ridiculous for me to put myself in that situation where that's all I have, especially as a startup business. So
indeed,
financially, I'm not worried about that. It's just it would be disappointing because it would take away the joy of pipe smoking from a lot of people who are simply not going to pay that much for a tin of tobacco. I mean, it's going to
right,
make pipe smoking inaccessible for some people because some people are just not going to want to put up with that price
very
point.
much so.
And so then you will see a decline in pipe smoking, I believe. There are various opinions on that, but it seems like there's one attack after another coming from government and society trying to explain that pipe smoking is a high risk health hazard, and therefore we have to tax it tremendously. I also have opinions about that. I don't think that smoking pipe tobacco is nearly as problematic with one's health as a
No,
lot of other issues involved with our society, both physically and mentally.
boy, very much so. Absolutely. There's I guess you would say there are far bigger fish to fry in that regard, that we really need to address. I mentioned I'm not saying pipe smoking has no risk whatsoever. By no means. I don't think uh, that would be truthful in itself. But far worse things um, that are causing issues in our again, speaking in United States and or Western society, and as you mentioned, both physical and emotionally, health wise, that we need
Mm-hmm.
to have more focus on. So set aside then the government's issues. Looking forward, what do you think the future looks like for interest in pipe smoking and the attraction?
Well, based upon what I'm seeing in the industry, from the industry side of things, there's a lot of people buying a lot of tobacco and a lot of pipes, and it just continues to go up.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have been able to start a business like this 10 years ago and see the amount of growth that we have seen just in the past 2 months since we opened on August 1st. The growth is just phenomenal. And most of the material that we sell is going to younger pipe smokers who are trying to get into this.
Yes.
Because let's face it, a lot of the people who are 40 to 60 years old, they've been smoking a pipe for years. They already have stores that they're dedicated to. They're loyal to particular vendors. And I understand and I appreciate that. But that gives us a chance to attract younger people who are just coming into the hobby. And so from an industry standpoint, I see a lot of growth in the 21 to 30 age range. And those are going to be the long-term customer base for a lot of pipe shops, not just
Indeed.
us.
Sure.
And so I think it helps to pay attention to those younger people and to really help them come along and understand how to smoke a pipe properly and understand sort of a little bit of a philosophy behind it, which I think is helpful. Because if you understand that there's a philosophy behind this, you're more inclined not to give it up. Because it's not simply something that you do on a weekend in order to fill time. It's more than a hobby, as I like to tell people. It becomes a reflection of your personality, and it complements the lifestyle that you already have. So from an industry standpoint, again, I see growth. I don't know how long that lasts, but I don't think it slowed down in 20 years. I don't think it slowed down at all, because more people are starting to realize the much larger health risks involved with cigarette smoking.
Right.
When I smoke a pipe, I'm not at all putting myself in a situation where I am addicted to the nicotine in this tobacco. I have never once felt an addiction to pipe tobacco.
That's right.
Actually, I prefer blends that are not high in nicotine at all, because I don't like the way that it makes me feel. I don't like a nauseated feeling.
Right.
So that's that's not what I'm looking for. So I think that as people are wanting perhaps this is not the right word, but a more sophisticated way of appreciating tobacco,
yes,
they're turning to the pipe.
Yes.
And it has a lot to, well, think about it, that I enjoyed whiskey, for instance, and tasting the different notes in whiskey. There's also a rise in adult beverages. People are interested not simply in drinking alcohol for the purpose of the effect, the feeling that it gives, but for the taste.
Yes. Yeah.
And so there seems to be, there's a correlation between people. And again, this is just American society. I think our European friends have already developed this. So
yes, I think so.
And so our American friends are getting to a point where there's more people wanting to taste different items and appreciate taste, not simply get a nicotine high or whatever you want to call it.
That's right. And good. I'm glad you mentioned the connection with alcohol intake. I don't know when this started, but just think of microbreweries when it comes to beer or small distilleries when it comes to bourbon or other types of whiskeys. That has seemed to have grown over the past decades, whatever time span that is. But it grew from so many of, especially the younger generation, millennials and downward. They have more interest in the microbreweries that have more distinct and high quality ingredients and flavors, as you mentioned. They're not looking to, for the, I guess we'll just say, to get drunk overall. They're looking for the flavor. They're looking for more the art aspects of it. Maybe what we think of wine has always been. When people think of wine, they think of, you're not really drinking a lot. You're smelling and tasting the notes and flavors, and now that, which was really interesting to see, that aspect grew into the beer industry, which is just odd if you think about it. Like it was odd at one point, but I've heard guys, I've seen them. I've hung out with guys who, they grab their whether glass or can or bottle, and they're like, I smell these notes of caramel and the hops or whatever it would be, and the same thing with scotch and in other types of whiskey, bourbon, things like that. So I think there is a correlation between that and pipe smoking, as you mentioned. We
Yes.
talk about the flavors and the just the having an interaction with the smoke. It's not just a cigarette we pop out of a pack to
Yes.
calm our
Well, think about
nerves. Yeah.
think about this, that there's more going on here than what meets the eye. There's more than simply, it's more than pipe tobacco, and it's more than tasting different spirits. Overall, in this country, especially over the past 10 years, there's been a demand for artisan craftsmanship, a demand for local flair in the products and the experiences that we purchase. People are looking for an experience to buy, not simply a product to place on the shelf.
That's right.
And so it all goes hand in hand. This also goes back to the rise of the small farm movement, the homestead movement that we're seeing all across the country. This is hot right now. This is a hot topic. Go to homestead videos on YouTube and see how many people are watching that compared to pipe videos.
Oh, absolutely.
Many of these channels are reaching millions of views. Yes. And what does that tell me? That tells me that people are getting tired of the status quo. They don't want to any longer be a part of a homogenized culture that's pushing closer and closer towards a global worldview. People still want to appreciate local culture and local people, talk to their neighbor and get to know the people around them more than the guy on the television. And so all that is encouraging to me, because I have been wanting, especially our society here in the South, to move back to that, and I'm so glad to see it happening. And I think the pipe fits into that all these other movements very well. I know there are several people on Instagram who are pipe smokers, and they're also farmers. They're also homestead people. They either run a plant nursery. They are interested in the natural world.
That's right.
They want their life to be is lived as close to the natural world as possible. Now, this is not in appraising pantheism or anything like that. This is simply saying there are good people out there who want a more simple, real lifestyle. And if they want to enjoy tobacco, they're going to a pipe or even a cigar to do it.
That's right. Absolutely. So when we were farming personally ourselves, and I guess I just call it organic farming, though we use the word regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
And when we were doing that, number one, going back to, you said people desire local, craft goods. Some individuals, especially in the region we were in, that the small scale farming didn't take off just yet when we were farming, and the interest in organic or local goods was just getting going. Some people looked at the cost of the meats we sold for chicken, for instance, and they're like, wow, that's more expensive than what I'm finding in the store, and I don't know when I paid that. But then when we started having people partake of what we were selling, the meats, they saw the quality, and even though they could get it far cheaper in the store, well, they went with us, and they realized that quality. And then one thing that stood out in my mind, as you probably know, farmers don't make much, but and I always kind of felt at times not humiliated, that may be a strong word, but it's just maybe sensitive over that. When I was with my wife, she's a speech pathologist. We were hanging out with friends, and there's some professors from a college, a university nearby. We're sitting at a table, we're having dinner, and I was sitting by one. He's like, Wilson, tell me what you do. And I was farming. I was like, oh man, I'm dealing with chickens mostly. This is kind of embarrassing. And so I explained to him what I do, what my day looks like. And he looked at me he's like, I want that. He's like, oh man, I would trade that. I would love to have that lifestyle. And I think that has grown with the rise of technology. We've lost touch with the natural world. And I think just folks desire that, and some of it's rose-colored glasses. I can tell folks, yes, I enjoy farming. Lord willing, I get back to it at least to some extent, but it's not all nice and rosy, but
No.
there is a connection with the soil that I think society just longs for. And once again, it goes back into pipe smoking, of that simplicity. What made the Lord of the Rings world so enticing? There is I think you're right. There is a type of spiritual draw to it that we were made from the dirt, and there's a connection I think we just naturally have to it that we've slowly lost.
Yes, that's right. We should have another conversation sometime about the connections between agriculture and pipes, because if you think about it, what we enjoy here begins with good land.
It does.
It begins with a dedicated farmer,
yes,
who is passionate about growing this plant.
That's right.
And so that's that is a gold mine for an entirely different conversation.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So looking forward, a bit more. I know the restrictions and legislation can change this, but I don't see it going away anytime soon. As we become more entwined with technology, in fact, maybe government restrictions and government intervention might even cause it to swing the other way and I don't mean government restrictions, legislation on pipe tobacco necessarily, but just overall, all these factors I think will just press people more towards the land, and with that, more towards a simplistic lifestyle, and pipe tobacco itself, and what it offers and how it connects.
Well, I think a lot of people are doing well. If you want to talk about the back to the land movement, and American history is full of these. There have been back to the land movements cycling through American history about every 30 years or so. So this is nothing new. It usually happens when people are looking for a more stable and more secure way of providing everyday items, such as food or sometimes clothing.
Right.
And the price of land around here has skyrocketed, and homes here in South Carolina with 10 to 20 acres of land would have sold before 2020 for a fraction of what they're selling for now, because people are wanting, they're paying a premium price for security and stability.
Yep.
And so that also again is connected to the pipe. I mean, there's something comforting about sitting down and smoking a pipe. It's a comforting thing in a world that has gone haywire, a world which we have to remember is fallen after all. The pipe is a comforting, tangible item that we can hold in our hands as we ponder where we've been, where we are now, and where we're going from this point forward.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And think about the desire for the local pipe shop, even more further than just simply pipe tobacco, the local pipe shop. I know we think that, again, technology has kind of combats that, and maybe it will no longer be desired. But I remember back in 2019 there was a from the New York Times or Washington Post or some larger outlet, they had an article on how, despite Amazon, who did certainly kill off a lot of local mom and pop bookstores, brick and mortar bookstores, but in 2019 there was don't quote me on this, but a record number of books sold at mom and pop stores for, I don't know, let's just say the past 20 years or 15 years or what have you. And they owe it a lot to people wanting to get back to actual eye-to-eye shopping, or foot to floor shopping, and get that connection again on books. You can get them cheaper on Amazon. You can get them with a click, and they'll be at your door in a couple of days, or used to be a couple of days. Now it's not so quick, but which has been frustrating, but I guess that's another topic for another day. But yeah, so even in books, we've seen that, and maybe 2020 changed that to some extent, though I think it will come, it's still evident, and it will be prevalent. But there's another avenue or place we see it where folks just desire the one-on-one interaction, in whatever shape that takes, and I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon.
No, Amazon doesn't have the power to replace uh, the hand-to-hand, eye-to-eye relationship transactions that people are craving for.
Yes.
I will drive, and I have driven hours to go to a pipe shop just to see what a good pipe shop looks like,
Yes.
because
Yes.
there's nothing like it around here. And people will do that if they're searching out books, regardless as to what it is. People will travel to find what they want and to buy an experience,
That's right.
not simply. It means nothing to go to Amazon, and I've had to use Amazon for a lot of things. It serves a purpose,
Sure.
of course,
Absolutely.
but I get nothing out of it beyond the product itself. I have
That's
no
right.
relationship with the company.
That's right.
I don't know who it is that's packaging this box and sending it to me. The only thing I want out of that transaction is the product alone, because I know that's all I'm going to get. And people don't want that with everything they buy. With certain things we buy, yes, that's fine. But with a pipe, you're talking about a very personal item that you are putting in your mouth. It is becoming a part of your personality. It matters to know who is packing it up for you,
Yes.
where it came from, and if possible, who was the man who made it. I mean, that's why I've been getting into artisan pipes lately.
Mm.
I
Yes.
really enjoy knowing the personality, the individual personality behind the man who is making this pipe, or woman, whoever it is.
Definitely.
And so I'm not the only one. I think that that's happening across the board with a lot of different industries, not simply pipes. It
That's right.
matters. It matters to have a relationship with the people who are getting that product to you. And so, yes,
Yes.
the example about a bookstore is absolutely perfect. It explains what people are wanting now. And again, that's encouraging,
It
especially as
is.
somebody who wants to start a real pipe shop, a brick and mortar.
Yes.
It's encouraging to see
It
that.
is. Absolutely. Like you, I don't have a brick and mortar pipe store nearby that is a true, not, oh goodness, it not simply a pipe store, but a tobacco store. Oh my goodness, how many vape shops do we have around ourselves?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same for you, but you find them just they're on every corner, it seems, in at least in the larger towns and cities. But I have to travel 45 minutes an hour to get to a true cigar shop, and a couple of hours to get. I actually have to go to Dallas to get to a true pipe tobacco shop that actually has it up on the shelves, and not just like a 5 or 6 tins.
Yeah.
And so, Lord willing, we do see a lot more guys step up, men and women step up like you, who have local pipe shops. I think that will become more attractive, and I'm grateful for smoking pipes, for the tobaccopipes.com, the pipes and cigars, things like that. They have their place. They've been helpful, influential in getting the movement back going. Don't get me wrong, and I give them I'll give them my business, but I'm like you. I've slowly drifted into supporting smaller shops, artisan pipe makers, as you mentioned, and there seems to be more and more coming out. I'm grateful for that. I don't think that would be happening if there wasn't a demand, and I hope the demand just increases with them. But that seems to be growing, and I think that's a good sign for sure.
Yes, it is. It is. There is a lot of growth in the pipe world, because and for all the reasons that we've discussed, and I'm glad to see it. I hope that there will be more people getting involved, so that I can go to my local town and enjoy a pipe with somebody, and not simply have to rely upon screens to do it.
Yes,
As much as I enjoy sitting here enjoying a pipe with you, sir,
absolutely.
I wish we were able to do it together.
Oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Now, whenever I do get with guys and actually smoke together, it is just a different experience. It's more enjoyable. And I'd encourage you, those of you who you usually don't smoke with someone, try to find someone in your area, if you can, whether that's at a tobacco or pipe shop, or maybe you just find someone in the YTPC community, which has happened. I see a lot of guys who said, I didn't know anyone was around me. And they get on the YTPC, community, they look around, and lo and behold, there's someone maybe an hour away from you. That's hopeful. I'd encourage you to do that. And along with that, I'm slowly moving away of buying pipes online, even to some extent. I still do, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to holding one in your hand before you buy it, and placing it, some will allow you to place it in your mouth, they'll have those covers, what have you, and getting a feel for it in your mouth, what it looks like for you, that's just a better experience. Just again, back with clothes, like if anyone's bought clothes on Amazon or online shop, wherever, you get it and you're like, man, this doesn't fit right. And I've had that happen with pipes, which sounds silly, but I bought a pipe and I'm like, well, I mentioned I like pipes that are better clinchers because I'm reading or I'm writing, and I'll buy a pipe, and though it has the dimensions on inches, or length or width or pipes, the bowl size, the weight, still occasionally I bought a pipe and I'm like, this is not going to work. And that's one of the benefits of having a local pipe shop for sure. So I do hope it continues. But so with that said, any with looking at the time, any remaining remarks worth mentioning before we end today, Alan?
Well, I think you summed it up very well. I'm just excited about being in the industry, but more than being in the industry, it's just simply being a pipe guy.
Yes.
I can't imagine my home without pipes at this point.
No.
I can't imagine not being able to enjoy the smell of a good aromatic blend, which is the only thing my wife will allow me to smoke anywhere around her.
Sure, understandable.
But I just can't imagine, and I think that's the case with many people, regardless as to what happens with legislation. They're not going to be able to imagine their daily routine without their pipes and their favorite blend. So I'm excited about what the future holds, and I've enjoyed this. Could do it again some other time.
Absolutely. Oh man, there's already like two topics in mind that we could go easily another hour, but we'll definitely get back together and touch some other topics that pertain to this, to our pipe hobby. Alan, how can people follow you? Check more things out, things like that. How can they get to know you a little bit more?
Well, we have our store website is oldcarolinapipecottage.com. And we recently launched a YouTube channel, I think probably a month or so back, and it's simply entitled Old Carolina Pipe Cottage. We're also on Instagram. You can follow us there. And the interesting thing, I really didn't have a whole lot to do with social media before I started this pipe shop, but it's been a lot of fun. There are a lot of excellent, wonderful people out there.
There are.
And I've enjoyed it immensely. So that's how you can get in touch with us, and
wonderful.
Come on by and see us sometime.
There you go. There you go. So guys, I'm going to have all those links down below in the box. So please follow him. Again, he said he mentioned his YouTube channel has just recently started up, but so far, great stuff that you need to be aware of. Instagram's great. I just recently got on Instagram. I never thought I would, but it had, like Alan, like you said, it has been a good experience, and seeing some extra guys on there who may not be in the YouTube pipe community and things like that. So I encourage you folks to follow him on there as well. Well, Alan, brother, thank you so much for jumping on. Man, what a great conversation. And like I said, we'll have to have you on again soon and get back together and talk about some other related topips.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I thank you for having me on today, sir. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week and that you and your family are blessed on this day.
You too, my friend. You too. Well, guys, y'all take care, and we will talk to you very soon. All right, let me stop.